not too far out of Crested Butte, but you're going to have to earn it. And so just pull up a map and kind of look at a lake and get out there and go paddle, and you're not going to see anyone. And that's, if you're looking for that kind of experience, it's here, you know?
Well, cool. Well, thank you guys, Courtney and Braden, for joining us today from Waves. It goes so far back for Crested Butte for Trip Outside. And Julie and I personally, it was one of the destinations that I went to. It was like 2013 or 2014. I came out for Bike Week was happening, and I just took a guys trip. And since then, every time we come back, we go deeper and deeper and fall in love with Crested Butte. And it's such a special place in our heart. And you guys especially were sort of a launching point for Trip Outside in 2018. It's all right. When we came down, you were one of our first few outfitters. So it's a really special place for us and for Trip Outside. So thank you for joining us today and being with us.
We are so excited, and yeah, we're stoked to be a part of it, and we're stoked that you guys are doing well and still here and rocking and rolling.
Absolutely. I have this like vision of like this badass local Crested Butte, outfitter. When I saw you guys, you were like throwing the paddle boards around. You have this old school badass Suburban. Do you still have that thing?
Oh no, we sold it last spring.
No!
I know we sold the Suburban, but we bought a 66 Chevy flatbed truck that we're turning into the new Supmobile, and we're gonna have racks and we're gonna have the boards. We were still gonna have an old school car.
Nice. Yeah, the Suburban wasn't old enough for you. It wasn't cool enough.
No, it was a 56. It was younger than me. We need something older.
Yeah, so that's always stuck in my head, and how that vision of just like you're in the community, you're local, you're helping people get outdoors, and that's kind of helped clarify our mission more and more, working with local outfitters and working with people that are in the business that actually do the things that they love too. I'd love to learn about what got you guys started. When did you launch Wheelies and Waves? What were you guys doing before? What was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so we started in 2015. We'd been in Crested Butte for a handful of years before then, and just saw the need for like quality rental equipment and some kind of guidance when you go to a new place. It's always daunting to try to figure out like, all right, where's the trailhead? Where's the trail? Or what lake do I go to? And so we had rented some equipment, and we've obviously traveled a lot all over the country. And so that's kind of the piece that we saw that needed some help. And then, yeah, Courtney got certified or went to a paddleboard training and really fell in love with paddleboarding. She grew up surfing, and it was kind of a way for her to be on the water while we lived in the mountains. And so she really loved it. And then she was like, well, I'm just doing this thing by myself. How do I get my friends to be able to come and paddle with me? And she's like, we should buy some of these boards to rent. And I said, well, let's figure out who makes the best boards, and we'll grab a handful of them and see what happens. And so that first summer, we got linked up with Soul Paddleboards and met them over at FibArc and bought 6 or 7 boards and just started renting them out of our garage before and after we went to our other jobs, And that first summer, we just saw a really positive response and a lot of people, taking advantage of the rental equipment. And we've kind of just grown from there.
And for us, when we moved to town, so I grew up at the beach, and I grew up in a tourist town at the beach, and I moved here, and if you know Crested Butte, you know that every athlete here is like, they're really good. They're all like the best mountain bikers, yeah, the best skiers, the best athletes. Like, I feel like it's like this fishbowl of like all the best of the best came here to be like, and I moved here, and I'm a great water athlete, but I am not a mountain athlete. And so I was trying to learn how to mountain bike and trying to learn how to do all these sports. And I just kept thinking, like, when people come here that aren't amazing athletes, like, what do they do? They can hike, but how many days can you hike? And so that's why I started paddleboarding. I was like, oh, this is, something I can just go out and relax. Or if I want to get a little more adventurous, I can go on the Slate River. But I was like, this is something that I love to do and that anybody can do. And I think we really wanted to be inclusive, and that was a big part of why we started this business. We wanted something that everybody could come to town, whether it's day one and they're from the beach like me and they're getting used to the altitude, but they still want to get outside and have a good time. they could grab a paddleboard and go up to Lake Irwin and paddle for an hour or two with their family and be outside, but not be winded or not be like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm on this mountain bike trail and this is crazy, or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point, the inclusive part, because not everyone in the group either mountain bikes that hard, or there's kids and families, or on an off day, you don't want to just go hard every single day. And I do think the Crested Butte is probably one of the most challenging places to go do anything. I mean, you're landing at what, like, is it 9,000 feet or
9,000.
Yeah. I mean,
right? Just at the base. So
9,300 at the base area. Yeah.
yeah, just going for a short hike, it really takes it out of you. So maybe on a day off or intro, that's amazing. And I love the paved path that exists between town too, because the town itself is so adorable and so unique that the outdoor activities are obviously amazing, but there's a lot for everyone there.
So there's a pro tip there, man. You know, when you first come to Crested Butte, that first day, kind of getting acclimated, come grab a paddleboard or a kayak and just go float around on the lake and kind of get acclimated. You know, don't go do the 20-mile bike ride or 401 or whatever. Kind of take it easy that first day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a lot of times you try to condense that same activity as much as possible. And we did that when we came, but I was kind of beat. In the last day, I ended up taking a spill and I ended up with some, like, a big gash in my leg, but it was fun. But I wouldn't have minded, like, another day of just kind of doing non-mountain biking activities. But I think it was before you guys existed, so the offering wasn't even there.
You know, and then the next time we came back, we were there.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounded like you started it maybe on the side, and was it your, like, full-time business right away? Because I know it's a seasonal activity and the water flow. And the second part of that question is, I guess, what is the best time to come take a float and paddle, and what are the different places that you can go do these activities?
Yeah, let's tackle that first one first, I guess. Yeah, for us, I mean, mountain town living, man, it's multiple jobs, right? I've done everything from building houses, you know, cutting lumber in -4-degree weather. So the paddleboard business, I mean, we still both have other businesses that we work on, you know. So it's definitely become a main piece for us, and it's scaled over the last few years. We got into a location right next to True Value Ace Hardware that worked really well for us and just gave us a lot of visibility and allowed us, you know, to get that visibility around town. So that helped us a lot, I think.
But yeah, that first summer, I was teaching fitness classes. So I would wake up and I'd teach a fitness class first thing in the morning. And then I would go deliver paddleboards, and then I'd go back and teach more fitness classes. Braden was working as a mechanic. So then I would go into the bar and bartend at night. And when Braden got off work at like 5, he would go round up all the paddleboards, clean them, schedule everything for the next day, write down the delivery addresses. And that was our first summer, man. It was rocking and rolling. And we had 6 or 7 boards and we were figuring it out, but it wasn't like, we have a loan from the bank and a location. And like, it was great because it was a smaller investment up front, but it was a lot of work. And it's the kind of work that a lot of people maybe don't want to put in order to get to that next level or that next point. Because I mean, we were working 6, 8 morning, noon, and night.
Yeah, I think one thing we do is try to just think long term, man. For us, the business is, you know, we're going to be here for a long time, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to keep adapting and changing and doing what we need to do. And I think a lot of people just have short term, want to start a business, make some money, or whatever their motive is, and it's just kind of short term thinking.
Yeah, and it's so much more rewarding when you go through that grind. And now hearing you talk about those hardworking days, and you've come a long way from that, but it's so much more rewarding to look back and see how far you've come. And
yeah, and people talk about marketing all the time. And that first summer, our marketing was like me behind the bar talking to everybody, being like, what are you doing tomorrow? I rent paddleboards if you want. I have like opening up my phone and like looking at our little schedule and being like, I got 2 paddleboards available. Can I put you on the schedule? Like that was our marketing, was talking to every single person that came into the restaurant and talking to every single person that we saw in town. we would put the paddle boards like you saw in the back of the truck or whatever and drive up and down Elk Avenue and just park. And then people would be like, where are you going with those paddle boards? And he'd be like, come on over.
Yeah, that's what it takes. It's just, you get the word out and you're talking to people, and luckily you have such a great location and that strip and the audience there. And it could be like a very next day activity. You just touched on that. So where can you go on the paddleboards in Crested Butte? Is it, I know the Slate River is there, but that has minimal flow, but we went to a beautiful lake. But I would love to hear from you, what are the best places to paddle in Crested Butte?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they just look for convenience. So obviously, I mean, Irwin's the closest, easiest to get to, but it also makes it the most crowded, man. So we always try to disperse people to other areas and maybe drive a little bit out of Crested Butte, Taylor Reservoir, Blue Mesa down in Gunnison. Both of those are subject to some wind in the afternoon. Paddle, which would give you a board overnight, or early morning getting out and going on the Mesa or up at Taylor is epic, man. It's so fun when it's glassy and you can get out there and paddle around with the mountain views. Is really cool. And then there's a lot of other high alpine lakes, but you're gonna have to earn it a little bit. And we have hiking packs. A lot of people hike them to Long Lake, which is close to town. But there's other ones, Green Lake and some other ones not too far out of Crested Butte, but you're going to have to earn it. And so just pull up a map and kind of look at a lake and get out there and go paddle, and you're not going to see anyone. And that's, if you're looking for that kind of experience, it's here,
Yeah. And I feel like Emerald Lake is one too, that it's further, it's an adventure just getting there. You can drive there, but it is gorgeous. And there's very rarely people on there.
That's incredible. What I love about the inflatable paddleboards is I think it's going to be a new activity where you can pack it and hike to that alpine lake and paddle it, right? Really get away from everyone. So I think that what you're offering is incredible, is the ability to get away and beat those the really crowded lakes and just be paddling with 100 other people. I think what we're all seeking is that individual experience in nature that it's kind of hard to get, but with paddleboarding and inflatable paddleboards, you guys can make that happen.
Totally. And we do have the Slate River right in town, and that's a very popular float because the river is typically a little more mellow depending on the flow. Early season, like you're asking what times of year, early, depending on the snow melt, early season, the water is a little higher. Usually by mid-July, the river is done. And just because it gets too low because it's a snowmelt river. But really any time of year is great to come and paddle. If you're looking to do the Slate River, June, early July, and then all of the high alpine lakes anytime in July, August, even September. A lot of times that first little chill in the air, because we're up high altitude, people are like, no, I'm done. But man, we've had some of the most beautiful paddles up at Lost Lake, up Kevlar Pass, which is where the largest aspen grove is in North America. And so all the leaves are yellow and you're paddling Lost Lake and it is just gorgeous. And all of our boards, the reason we went with Soul paddle boards because they're super stable. So you're floating up on the water. It's really stable. You take the kayaks. So that's a really great experience too. And kind of a little insider tip, because we don't get a lot of people that come and paddle in September, but that's when the locals get out and paddle, because that's when it's the most beautiful and not super crowded up there.
That's great to know. Yeah, I think the summer crowds can definitely pile up and change your experience, but you think like August, September, still beautiful up there. All the snow is melted and the new snow hasn't come in yet. So thanks for sharing that. That's always a question that I ask, is like, what's a good time to visit that people don't expect sometimes? And it seems like fall is a beautiful time to come.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, and then thinking about time of day. I know with family, I mean, we serve a lot of families, and I know it's hard to rally everybody, but if you can get out a little bit earlier in the morning before everyone's heading up to the lake, or come grab a board at the end of the day and go up for sunset. I mean, that's what we do, right? We close the shop up and we'll pop up to the lake and go for a paddle, and it's like empty. And it's like, man, there was so many people up here today. So just switching that time slot when you're going to go do an activity, right? Kind of rescheduling your day a little bit can make a huge difference to your experience.
Totally. Yeah, totally. There are some hot springs near Crested Butte too. And are those hiking? We've never made it to them, but I'm asking more for myself, and maybe it's an insider tip. But how crowded are those hiking hot springs that I can't remember the name of?
Conundrum, right?
Yeah, you're talking about
Conundrum. That's it.
Yeah, we've never been out there. I think it is kind of a little bit of a burly hike, but another kind of really cool day you could have here would be paddling at Needle Creek Reservoir, kind of another one hidden a little bit closer to Sargent's, and then go into Juanita Hot Springs, which is a drive to, so both of those that'd be a pull-up park and paddle lake right next to the lake at Needle Creek. Again, a little bit of a drive out of town, but man, if you're willing to spend a little bit of time in the car, you're not going to see as many people. And then you could definitely tack on a little bit of time at Juanita Hot Springs. But yeah, Conundrum, that'd be a little bit of a hike to Conundrum with a paddleboard, I think. But
I think it's like 50 miles, and it's permitted now. If I don't quote me on that, but I believe it's permitted.
That's great, because I was hearing some things about them being a little bit overcrowded and getting a little overused. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys just started a e-bike rental offering as well. Actually, maybe before that, like what are all the things that you guys offer? I know there's like trips to Bali and a lot of different things that are under the Wheelies and Waves umbrella. So if you want to share kind of all the things that you offer and tell me a little bit more about when the e-bike rental starts.
Yeah, so I think one thing we've done really well is just kind of listening to our clients and what they look for. And as paddleboarding is really, most people can do it, a lot of people still have a little bit of fear about falling in the water. And so that's when we started renting some inflatable kayaks and kind of saw, hey man, not everyone wants to paddleboard. Now you can hop in a kayak, and that is kind of available to most people. And then we actually had an employee working for us, and he was a big skateboarder, and was like, man, there's no skate shop here in the valley, like, serving the skaters and stuff. So we started selling some skateboards a few years ago, and that's kind of taken off at our Gunnison location. We've got tons of skate stuff, and getting a lot of first-time people setting up their first board. And then this year, we're going to start renting and selling electric bikes. So we become a Pedigo electric bike dealer. And it's just so cool, because now you can come and have a day on the water with us, and then the next day you can grab a bike and ride up the rec path or go cruise around town. And again, just kind of something that's available to, a good percentage of people. Like anyone can hop on a bike, and it just makes biking really fun again. Hills aren't a problem. They've got an assist, and you can still get your workout in. The thing with electric bikes is, if you have fun riding your bike, you're going to do it more often, so people end up actually riding them more than they would a regular bike. So I think that's really cool.
And hopefully, they can take a lot of the cars off the road, off the main street, off Elk Ave, and you can have more of a all year round biking culture, the way you see it during bike week, or that 24-hour race, right? Like imagine that being all the time, where most people are just biking around instead of driving and parking and experiencing Crested Butte less crowded.
Totally. During COVID last year, they made Elk Avenue a one-way and made a lot of the room on the streets open for the restaurants, for outdoor seating. We really adapted, but that made 50% of the parking on Elk Avenue. And so we're looking at the Slate River put-in and watching people put into the river. And I watched a family on towny, just cruisers that they rented, bikes, regular bikes, trying to bike up the rec path. And because they wanted to go up to the mountain, and I heard them talking like, oh yeah, we'll go up to the mountain, we'll have lunch and we'll bike back down. It can't be that hard. And 5 minutes later, I see them turned around coming back up the rec path. And that's when I turned to Braden and I was like, e-bikes, just e-bike cruisers that they can pedal assist up on those steep parts and not have to worry about it, and then come back down. And so
and I think when you think about the family that's coming out to play, right? Not everyone's going to have the same athletic ability. So now you have where, man, imagine the memories you're going to create with the whole family going and riding bikes around town, because now grandma and grandpa can join in and cruise around and have that, share that experience and that time together. So I think that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah. And like the alternative is, you're staying in town and the resort's really cool to go visit. The alternative is to get in and drive, or maybe take the shuttle possibly, but it's not very conducive to just, driving back and forth. It's painful. But if you can have an e-bike, you can have lunch on the mountain, you can go explore the resort, but then come back down where you're staying. I think it's a great offering. So are these available to rent out of Crested Butte or only in Gunnison?
Yeah, we'll have bikes at both locations this summer. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. We'll definitely let people know about that. Are you still doing your trips to Bali, or are those obviously on
Yeah.
pause for now? But what was that trip like, and what was the offering?
Yeah, Bali has not been a Wheelies and Waves trip as of yet. It was just kind of a scout trip for us, but we have done Thailand, and we're getting ready to run a trip to Mexico. And those trips for us is just kind of fill our off season a little bit, try to expand the season of the business, right? It's really short summer here, and I think the bikes are going to help us with that as well, is just trying to keep employees staffed up and just have more opportunity for people to interact with our business and go on trips and experience cool places. And the trips that we do, man, they're really cool. We partnered with Flow World Travel to offer these trips, and it's just an awesome way to go about traveling. If some people never left the U.S. or you just want to go see a new area, and we have a small group of say 10 people, and we're going to get our private boats and stuff like that, access to things that you wouldn't have if you go and just travel by yourself.
Super cool. And so is the Mexico one going to happen this year? Mexico, where in Mexico is it, by the way?
Yeah, so we're doing Mexico in May to Sayulita. So we
Okay.
go down there and hang out for about a week. And then we are going to run a St. Martin trip in the fall this year. And then 2022, we'll rerun those trips again and then go back to Thailand, which has been closed. They actually just opened back up. So our Thailand trip is incredible. And then we'll do a trip to Spain. So we'll probably have those 4 trips going on next year.
That's amazing. You're doing so much. I don't even know how you manage it all, but that's really cool. It sounds like you're enjoying what you're doing. You're loving the outdoors. It's got to be so amazing to live in Crested Butte full time. It's such a special place. What are some of the things that you guys like to get out as locals, and what are some of the things that you like to recreate and do out when you're not working?
Oh man, when we're not working, what is
Right.
that? But the cool thing
Or
is that
even if it's for work and you're scouting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think we're pretty excited this summer to hit some more shows at the iBar Ranch down in Gunnison. They do some concerts out there. It's a really cool venue. And I'm a dirt biker, so just trying to see and explore more, further, faster, right? We ride over to Aspen, grab lunch, and ride back in just a handful of hours is a super fun day, or down to the Crystal Mill and then to Marble for some barbecue. So that's kind of my go-to day in the summertime when I can get away.
Yeah, and I love to hike. We have a new baby, so we have a little boy. He is going to be a year here soon. So I like throwing him in the backpack. Thank you. Yeah, I like throwing him in the backpack and hiking around and going to all the beautiful high alpine lakes and paddling and kayaking. And I just like getting outside and seeing stuff. Really, there's so much to see here, and it's incredible because it'll be 10 years. We lived here for 10 years now, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of all the places to hike and paddle and explore in the Gunnison Valley. Like there is so much, and especially Crested Butte, we've done a lot, most of the big stuff up there, but as we move down valley and start exploring Gunnison, it is just, there is so much to see and do, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a really good note that there's more to the area than just Crested Butte. It's the Gunnison Valley. It's the greater landscape, and there's so much more outside of just Crested Butte. So if you're planning on taking a trip, don't just limit yourself to just Crested Butte for 2 days or 3 days. Maybe plan a week, work remotely if you can, and explore more of the area that you can.
One of our favorite things to do actually is to rent a pontoon boat on the Blue Mesa. And because the Blue Mesa is the largest body of water in Colorado, it has 100 miles of coastline or something.
Just about, yeah.
It is huge, and it is gorgeous. And so we'll get a pontoon boat and throw some paddle boards on the pontoon boat and go out to these little fingers off the mesa and park the boat and just paddle around. And that's one of our favorite, when we have a day off, that's what we do together.
Yeah.
It sounds like a blast. It sounds like fun. What does this next year look like for you guys? Is Crested Butte pretty open to business, or are you already seeing bookings and traffic come through for this summer?
Yeah, I mean, talking to other business owners and stuff, it's shaping up to be a pretty busy summer here. I think we'll see what they do with regulations. But yeah, elk is going to be a one way. We're going to be set up, and we've been prepping pretty hard to get ready for a really, really busy summer. So I would say plan ahead with rentals, with equipment with us, and also with your lodging, and just trying to figure out what you're going to do. I mean, the sooner the better to lock that stuff in. It's going to be a really busy summer.
Yeah, there's nothing worse for us when a client comes in with their family and they're like, all right, we're here, we're gonna go to the lake, let's grab 2 paddle boards, and we have to look at them and be like, we don't have any, we're rented out for the day. They're like, what about those 2? I'm like, they're reserved. And it is like heartbreaking to us because we know that that's what they had planned for the day. So definitely plan ahead, book your boards ahead, book your bikes ahead. We are flexible with weather. Like, we understand that weather happens. We're pretty flexible with our policies because our goal is to have you guys go out and have an amazing experience. And that's what we like to do.
That's super cool. Yeah, it's great to know that plan ahead. And if you need to cancel because the weather conditions happen, you can do that, or a couple of days in advance if plans changed. What are some things that you're seeing with this overcrowded and over tourism in Crested Butte that maybe locals are seeing and an average person doesn't get to see, that someone visiting Crested Butte can be a little bit more mindful about, and keep that culture alive, keep that small town vibe alive? If there's some things that you want to share, whether it's on the trail or in town, we'd love to get that message out.
Yeah, again, I think it comes, trying to think about your day and switching up the time, right? Because all of these areas, 401 trail, all of our main areas are getting really crowded. And so the thing I see that kind of makes me mad the most is people parking on the vegetation and the fauna, and building their own campsites, and then human waste has become a huge problem, right? So just plan on trying to figure that stuff out ahead of time, or having a plan for it. And I think that's the thing that makes the locals, it's just the ethics, or how you treat the backcountry is different for different people when they come from other places. And here we really do value it and try to keep it the same for everybody. So just trying to be super respectful of the flowers, the landscape, and pack it in, pack it out,
Yep, we are the wildflower capital of Colorado for a reason. We have the most beautiful wildflowers, and it is heartbreaking when you're driving Paradise Divide and you see a car just pulled off on the side on the flowers, and their tent just set up, not at a campsite. And then also it's kind of gross, but Braden touched on the point of the human waste. It's become a huge issue in the backcountry. The National Forest Service and the BLM, they're offering porta potties at the larger camping locations now, but use them. And if you're not going to camp there, bring a groover. Like, just have a plan for what you're going to do, and be respectful. And then as far as the lakes and the rivers go, we worked with the Slate River Working Group in order to do some preservation for the blue heron population. It's the highest elevation blue heron population in the US. And so
that is so cool.
Yeah, the Upper Slate River, it's a voluntary closure, but we really try to educate our river users on it. It's a voluntary closure until about mid-July, because they noticed that when people went by on boards or any sort of vessel, it disturbed the population. And so we've been working with the community to try to, this is a new sport in the mountain area, specifically with the paddleboards, and the e-bikes are, same thing. It's a new sport. Make sure that you know what the trail, if you are planning on going on a trail, make sure to know, is it motorized? Is it not motorized? If it's not motorized, you can't take an e-bike on it. Like, don't be that person. I really feel like Crested Butte does a really good job of what am I trying to say? Like, policing themselves.
Yeah, self-policing.
The locals themselves.
Yeah,
like pop in our shop and get a recommendation, or there's plenty of bike shops in town, and kind of get a little idea of what you should do with your day instead of trying to figure it out yourself. Ask the locals, ask the bartender, right? All these people that work in the valley, man, they're here to recreate and play outside. So you can definitely get some bomber tips from your waitress or waiter on what to do and how to go about your day, you know?
Yeah. No, I think it's really important that we start talking about, we want to be recreationalists that are for conservation, because what we all love about the mountains, what we all love about these areas is the wildlife, is the wildflowers, is the nature experience. And we want to, and it can be preserved, and we can actually grow it. We can keep mining from coming in and keeping our mountains alive. But there's the over tourism side of things, and doing it responsibly. So thank you for sharing all those tips. Um, I think like moose and some of the bigger animals that you have there are really incredible. And something I'd personally like to share is if you see wildlife, if you see a moose, observe it from enough distance where it doesn't change its behavior. If you're making that animal change its behavior, move away, if it's just there grazing and you're getting close enough where it looks at you and it has to move away, you're too close.
Mhm.
And that's how I personally feel. I feel like a lot of the wildlife, experts would say that too. Is um, they were there first. They're that's their habitat. They're grazing. So when you cause them to change their behavior, it has an impact on their full life cycle. They may not be able to calm down as much and be in that rest mode. I know elk have been impacted by their pregnancy rates in different places where there's a lot of backcountry traffic. So knowing that, just seeing that animal and wanting to take that picture is really exciting. But if you're getting too close and you're doing too much to cause its behavior to, it's a human interaction too. That can be very dangerous. So just know that elk and moose and bears, all these animals were there that it's their habitat, and we can recreate, coexist with them in a pleasant manner. And that's my rant, and I'm done.
Yeah, you don't need the selfie with the moose. You don't need.
Yeah. Well, it's such a pleasure having you guys on. You guys are this power couple in Crested Butte, living at 9,000 feet, crushing it every day, and making your business work, enjoying what you're doing. We can't wait to see you flourish and thrive. And as you grow in international tours and trips and different places, we'll make sure we keep getting the word out and spreading all the amazing things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, we can't wait to see you in the Butte this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it's this summer. Right now we're in Taos. And we've like linked up with different people in Crested Butte, and it keeps showing back up on the map. And I think it's been long enough that we've been away. We definitely want to explore Colorado this summer. Telluride, we haven't spent any time in, and Silverton, Ouray, all those amazing places. So as we get deeper into the mountains, we'll definitely make a stop in Crested Butte too.